Game studio Sucker Punch has aimed high and attempted to create an epic open-world Japanese fantasy samurai experience with Ghost of Tsushima. Is the game honorable? Or is it better off committing seppuku? Find out in our review. Ghost of Tsushima opens with Jin and his fellow samurai defending the shores of their homeland against an invading mongrel horde. Things do not go as planned though, and the brave warriors who guard Tsushima are all but destroyed. Jin himself only survives thanks to the efforts of a woman named Yuna, who appears to be a thief of some sorts. The two form an unlikely alliance and set off to recruit allies in their quest to liberate Tsushima from the malevolent Khoten Khan and his army. In order to liberate his people, Jin will have to make a lot of sacrifices, and possibly bring his honor into question along the way as well. I don't want to spoil too much of the story because it's a delectable, savory meal. Every quest has a story behind it that adds to the game's mythos. Every decision has a consequence, and it all weaves into a wonderful tapestry that makes Tsushima feel like a living, breathing world. The friends and allies you make along the way have their own stories to tell, and they're just as compelling as the main plot. I have to admit, a few quests hit close to home with their themes, and really worked to connect me emotionally to the game, which is an extremely rare occurrence for me personally. Wandering through the massive world of Ghost of Tsushima is a cavalcade of diversions. Much like Breath of the Wild, it's easy to get distracted from the task at hand by something that catches the corner of your eye, and suddenly, half an hour has gone by and you don't remember what you were doing in the first place. Beyond the stories told in the main and side quest, there are an incredible amount of things to keep you from whatever you're doing. The island of Tsushima is littered head to toe with exploratory distractions. Maybe a fox will pop up and lead you to a shrine, or maybe you'll have to do some platform puzzling to pray to another shrine, and there always seems to be a bamboo strike to hone your skills on. Perhaps you'll stumble upon an area perfect for a moment of meditative haiku writing. No matter what you end up doing, your character will benefit by gaining things like charms that buff your sword, cosmetic skins, or permanent stat increases of some sort. It's pretty easy to lose track of time while wandering in Ghost of Tsushima because the island is ridiculously gorgeous. Fields of vibrantly colored cherry blossoms littering the environment are breathtaking. Even though most of the island is covered in wilderness, there's a ton of variety to every area you end up visiting along your journey. Beyond nature's beauty, every village, temple, and castle you visit along the way has its own wonders to behold as well. It would be hard to look at a game like this and not make comparisons to the work of acclaimed director Akira Kurosawa, and 7 of his films like The Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, as well as his period pieces like Rashomon. Sucker Punch must have seen this coming a mile away, and decided to include a Kurosawa mode as a visual option. They even went as far to consult with the director's estate on it. The results are incredibly accurate to the sharp depth and tone that are prevalent in Kurosawa's black and white films. It's a fun addition and can be enjoyable if you're looking to take cinematic in-game pics or pretend you're a wandering samurai in one of his films. especially if you put on Japanese audio with English subtitles.
叔父上は嘆いておろう。
あんたが無事でよかったよ。
However, it can be a hindrance as far as doing things like picking up wildflowers or other items from the environment. There's also a few missions where color is an extremely helpful tool, but still, it's a nice bonus.
太刀が欲しいならついといて。
Character designs are also totally on point, and both the English and Japanese voice actors behind the various roles do a fantastic job with their performances. Like I mentioned earlier, this game has some great emotional gravitas to it, and it wouldn't come across even half as much without such great deliveries and wonderfully animated characters.
お前は戦士だ。そうであろう。生涯を鍛錬に明け暮れ、勝てぬはずの戦にも全て打ち勝ってきたのだろう。
While samurai are bound to a rigid code of honor that does not allow them to do things like stab enemies in the back, desperate times call for desperate measures. Jin will find himself in several situations where something more akin to an Assassin's Creed approach is more appropriate. Most of the time though, players will have the alternative to meet the enemy head-on in combat. There's usually even an option to challenge your opponents to a face-off duel before diving into a full-on brawl with their allies. Along the way, players will be able to unlock new dodging techniques and various sword fighting stances. The stances end up being a big part of sword fighting, since each of the four main enemy classes, swordsman, spearman, shieldman, and brutes, is weak to a certain one. There are also some fantastic one-on-one samurai duels that will put your skills to the test. They're a real treat, and probably one of the most immersive samurai experiences in the game.
Samurai!
As you progress, you'll also earn charms to augment your katana with things like buffs to damage or defense, stealth skills, and bow and arrow skills to name a few. Armor and weapons are also upgradable throughout various merchants, but players will have to collect a lot of supplies, such as bamboo, iron, leather, fabrics, flowers, and more in order to afford them.
質がよろしいですね。
One of the more important tools in combat is the Resolve meter that takes the form of a group of circles above the health gauge. Resolve can be used to heal Jin during a fight or pull off some extra special attacks that are learned as the game progresses. Knowing when to be conservative and when to cut loose with Resolve can be the key to winning a battle. Players will really have to make use of every resource at their disposal to truly master Ghost of Tsushima's combat mechanics and be victorious.
これよりもう子供の鼻を明かし、コトゥンハーンに意志を返すとしよう。
Overall, the way the stealth and combat mix together reminded me a lot of the Batman Arkham series in the way that it flows, which isn't a bad thing at all. However, the combat is far from perfect because of two major flaws. First and foremost, the game suffers from a lack of a true lock-on system. There were far too many times I would be fighting one enemy and another would come up and my focus would shift. Or maybe I would be trying to hone in on a particular enemy and suddenly I'm lunging into somebody else. And then there's the camera, which far too often felt like it was another enemy on the field. I found myself constantly spinning the cam, not only to focus on the action, but also to keep an eye out for enemies looking to get a cheap hit in. Fortunately though, it's not tough to overcome these obstacles and really master the combat mechanics. It also helps that Ghost of Tsushima doesn't really punish you for dying, so you never really lose progress. Overall, It does a great job at balancing the challenge and accessible fun factors of what make a game like this so enjoyable. The traversal mechanics are also extremely polished, and actions like leaping from branches, jumping on rooftops, and climbing mountains are very intuitive, with the exception of a few hiccups here and there. One thing I just adore about Ghost of Tsushima is the fact that I don't have to get off my horse when I'm riding to pick up items. Sure, it's a pet peeve of mine, but after having to hop on and off my horse so damn much in Red Dead Redemption 2, I'm more than happy to be able to grab supplies and plants without breaking my stride as I ride to my next destination. It's a small thing, but it's indicative of the attention to detail that Sucker Punch poured into this game.
それでよい。だが戒めを忘れず、抗い続けろ。
そういたします。
While Ghost of Tsushima has a few flaws that are common to most open-world games, this is still one of the most beautiful and fluid games I've ever played. While I did have a few moments of frustration, usually brought on by camera angle issues, there's just too much here to like, and none of it feels tacked on or a time filler. It's wonderfully balanced and doesn't punish you for needing to attempt something more than once. And even with the camera working against me, I was able to become a masterful samurai. Perhaps Ghost of Tsushima isn't a perfect cherry blossom, but it's pretty damn close as far as I'm concerned. For more reviews and everything else gaming related, you're already in the right place. You're on Shacknews.com.